Today's video is on matrix multiplication. So last time we talked about how to multiply a scalar, just a regular number, times a matrix. This time we're talking about how to multiply one matrix times another matrix. So a couple things you need to know. To do this, it's a really complicated process. I'll start off by telling you that you have to multiply the row in the first matrix multiplied by the column in the second matrix, and then add those numbers together to get one entry in your answer. So because of this, we can only multiply certain shapes of matrices. The ones that we can do are ones that are in a certain order. So I'm going to come over here to the side. Ones that you can multiply, like you could multiply, if you had a 4 by 5 matrix and you wanted to multiply that times a 5 by 2, you could multiply that because the 5 and the 5 match up. That is, the number of columns in this one matches the number of rows in this one. Well, what couldn't you multiply? Well, let's say you have a 2 by 5 matrix and you have another 2 by 5 matrix and you want to multiply those. Well, it seems like they're the same size. You should be able to do it, but actually you cannot, because the rows and the columns, the columns and the rows do not match up. So the number of the columns in the first matrix has to equal the number of rows in the second matrix. I will tell you that a lot of this stuff I'm not going to make you memorize, okay? So just as we're going through here and you starting to think, how in the world am I going to do this? I'm not going to make you memorize some of this stuff, most of this stuff. All right, well, how do we do matrix multiplication? If we look at these matrices, A is a 2 by 2. We do rows times columns. This one is a 3 by 2. You cannot multiply A times B. You cannot do that. It's not possible. But you could multiply B times A, because B times A would be 3 by 2 times 2 by 2. 2 by 2. And that, the 2's match up, and so this one is possible. So that's what we're doing here, is we're multiplying B times A. All right, to set this up, this is from coolmath.com. To set this up, they recommend setting them up this way, and this makes sense, that we have our first letter, B, over here, and our second letter, A, up here. Because what we are going to do is we are going to multiply. We're going to multiply the row in the first matrix by the column in the second matrix. So we're going to multiply this row times this column. And so to do that, we're going to take 0 times -1, which is here, plus 9 times 2, which is here. And we add those together. 0 times -1 is 0. 0 plus that is 18. To go to the next spot, we are going to take 0 and 9 times 5 and -3. So we take 5 times 0, 9 times -3, and we add those together, and we get -27. I think you can see that this starts to get a little bit complex. So for the next one, we're going to take 8 times -6, multiply it by -1 and 2. So 8 times -1, -6 times 2, that should be a -6 times 2, adds up to -20, and so forth. So we do that for every single one. And then we get these answers. Well, the answers are what goes in here. So this answer is the 18. This is -27. Kind of fell out there, sorry. This answer is -20. This is 58. Over here we have 10. And over here, this adds up to -1. That is how you do matrix multiplication. Well, guess what? You don't ever have to do that again, okay? We do not have to ever do that again. Here's our answer matrix. We're comparing it. It's the same thing. You never have to do this again because we can do it on our calculator. So you can see how confusing this was, and maybe you can take a minute to appreciate How hard would this be if you didn't have a graphing calculator? It would take forever, and it gets really confusing. So we have a graphing calculator, so let's just forget all this business, and let's go to how to do it on the graphing calculator. We're going to use the graphing calculator. In order to find b times a, we have to enter this into our calculator. So I have some calculator instructions here and how to do that. Since we just did these two, let's go down here to the bottom. Let's go down here to the bottom and enter these instead. So here's what you need to do. You need to go to your graphing calculator, and I'm going to walk you through how to do this on your graphing calculator. So first of all, you need to go to Second Matrix. Do you see where the matrix button is? Second Matrix. If you already have things in here, deleting them is really confusing. So rather than delete them, we're just going to write over them. So if you have stuff in here, don't worry about it. But if you don't, that's fine too. In the end, I mean, you'll be doing more and more problems, so you'll just write over the ones that we have. Okay, how to enter it. We're going to go over to edits. Let's arrow over to edit. And we want to edit the first one, so we'll enter. We want our matrix A to be a 2 by 2 matrix. If yours doesn't say 2 by 2, then change it right now. Just enter 2, and then over, and 2, and enter. And now you're ready to enter the matrix. The first A matrix on our paper is 11, 6, so we'll enter that. 11, enter, 6, enter, and then -3, -7. Make sure you're using the negative button, not the minus button. If you do the minus button, it doesn't like that at all. All right, there's matrix A. We need to do matrix B. So let's quit, second, quit. Let's go back to the matrices, second matrix. Go back to edit. Down to number 2. Excuse me, letter B, matrix B. Hit enter and take a second to enter your matrix B. You can pause it here because mine's already entered. Okay, once you have entered your matrices, let's quit out of here. So second, quit. We're back at the regular screen. Like if you typed in 3 times 2, this is where you would do 3 times 2. We're going to do that, but we're going to do with our matrices. You have to name them with the matrix. Oops, sorry. So you have to name it matrix A times matrix B. And so to do that, back at our calculator again, we're going to go to second matrix, and this time we're just going to hit name, and we're choosing the first one, A, so we enter. And then what do we want to do? We want to multiply it. So times second matrix names, let's choose B, enter, matrix A times matrix B, enter, and it gives us our answer matrix. So we can come over to our paper and we can write this on our paper. Our answer is -49, -4, 8, 44. I think we all agree that was way easier than trying to do it by hand. Okay, the next one I want to try is B times A. So pause the video here, go back to your calculator, and see if you can do B times A. So back on your calculator, you have B times A. You hit the enter button, it gives you the answer, and we are going to write that answer onto our paper, if I can see it here. So we're just going to write on here the answer matrix that we got. -67, -58, sorry, -58, 35, and 62. All right, for multiplying matrices, that's all we're going to do for today. We will, in class, we'll do some other things, like you can see that it can get a little bit more complex. But really, if you just enter these into your calculator, it's not very hard at all. The calculator instructions, You do need to understand how to do these instructions. I'm not going to, so when we did the linear regression on our calculator, I gave you the instructions. These I want you to know how to do. So just get comfortable with your calculator and know how to do these keystrokes. And that's it for today.